Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Skeleton Crew, a podcast where we discuss key crew positions on any film set. My name is Joseph Boyle.
And my name is Mark Farag.
And today we're here with Desireé Moore.
Hi, I'm Desireé Moore.
Hi Desiree, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Great.
So let's just get into it.
Okay.
Desiree, tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you hail from, sort of your background, how you got into filmmaking, whatever you feel like sharing.
Okay. Well, let's see. I got into art first. So I started with photography. So I got really interested in like lens-based imagery, I guess. And someone told me one time, hey, all your photos are in linear progression. Have you ever thought about making a movie? And I hadn't. So then I did. I picked up a video camera and I just started recording things. And eventually I went to school. I went to grad school for art, fine art, and the whole time there I made videos. And then that created this like avenue for me to investigate filmmaking and being on crews. So I just started PAing, and then, you know, you get hired and you do the next thing, and that's sort of what happened. But I found my passion in, really being the sort of like genius, if you will, on a film set, like thinking about all of the things and being super controlling and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As the best people are.
Yeah. So that's where I am now. And somehow it just happens. You make it happen.
Yeah.
Would you identify yourself mostly as a producer and director? Like what do you kind of label yourself as if you had to?
I guess a director, but I do everything.
Right.
So, it's like the director auteur or whatever that, has their hands in all of the pots. And yeah, so I think that's who I am.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit. So when did you first pick up a camera? Was there sort of a story? How'd you find that camera? What was that like? How young were you?
There was a story. So, I really was a writer. If I think back to when I was little, I was always writing little stories that involved like a Ouija board most of the time and ghosts. It was, I don't know why.
Did you have a Ouija board?
I made them. I would make them with friends, and we would pretend, we always knew someone was pushing the glass, but...
Wow, that's. Did you have a Ouija board?
No, I can't say that I have.
I was terrified of them, and they were strictly outlawed at my house.
We need to investigate this, because this must be a girl thing, I wonder.
Yeah.
It could be, yeah.
So that's how it all started.
Oh.
But
did you watch movies with Ouija boards, or what? I'm
No.
just curious that seems like an interesting, very specific.
I can't say where that came from.
Huh.
We made them a lot. So we would find like a poster board or a piece of cardboard. You write out all the letters. You have a space. You use a glass when you don't buy the like kit. And I don't know. You go to the basement and then light candles and pretend there's a spirit. Yeah.
Do you remember what your first camera was? I know you may not be the most technical person. Some people, I get the sense from you, you're more creative based and you don't get so locked up in the technicals. But some people can pick up a camera, not even know what the model is, and shoot with it for 20 years.
Yeah. No, my first camera was a Pentax, and it was a film camera. So, and it was 35 millimeter. And how did I get that? I feel like someone gave that to me, but now I can't remember, which is surprising. You'd think you would remember that forever. But I can't remember where that came from. That was my first camera, and I used it all through a high school and then into college. I was still doing black and white photography. And then in college, I got a Hasselblad medium format off the internet for like $300. And it's
quite a steal.
Wow.
Yeah. I know. I don't know how it happened. But it's gorgeous. And so then I started using that, and I started making photographs and printing photographs in the color darkroom, which is something that is really not available anymore in a lot of institutions. It just happened to be available where I was going to school. So,
you mean darkrooms in general, or just color? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my high school had a black and white darkroom. Which
Yeah,
was,
a lot of them still have black and white, but
Okay.
color is just so, there's so many more chemicals involved and much more deadly.
oh,
So, and there's not a lot of technicians now that still know how to run those, because those machines that, so it's basically a machine. You go into a dark room, you put your exposed paper in the dark, it comes through, it comes out. That machine breaks down all the time. It's just part of its thing. So you need someone who knows what they're doing. And I think a lot of those people are going away.
sure.
Yeah.
So fast forward a little bit when this person came to you and noticed this linear progression in your
Yeah.
photography and encouraged you to maybe to pursue filmmaking and cinema. What was your next step then? Do you remember your first short film or your first visual or moving visual project?
Yeah. So I started with, I was in Chicago and I made a PowerPoint storyboard of the film I was going to shoot. And it was so horribly like cut and paste. It was like, maybe I didn't even know how to use Photoshop. So I like cut out all these figures I had stolen from Google and like put them around and together in a PowerPoint to suggest what I wanted to do. Anyway, the story was very avant-garde. It was a silent black and white, and it was like someone is mysteriously walking toward the water, and then they look over and someone's in the water, and they have a bag over their head. Because, I mean, why wouldn't they?
Naturally.
Right? So I shot that, and it was the first time. And from that moment, I always have been very like risky with stuff. So I was borrowing a camera from the college, and I wrapped it up in a plastic bag and put it in the water. And I just didn't even think about, well, this could be bad. I could ruin the camera. I could owe a lot of money. I just didn't think about it because, I don't know, I was more interested in getting what I needed. And I needed to have an underwater shot. And I didn't have the equipment to do so. So I made it happen. Everything was fine. But
So you got the shot.
I got the shot.
Oh, that's cool. Remind me never to let you borrow a camera again.
Actually, I remember the first time I heard about you was Mark. Ooh, interesting.
Story.
So I met Mark just reaching out to him on Facebook. I was like, okay, I'm new in the Tampa area. I'm just going to reach out to all these filmmakers. And I got as far as Mark, and that was it. And so,
I didn't know that's how you met.
yeah, which is really, really strange. For some reason, I don't know what drew me to you, Mark.
Yeah.
It was just your pretty face, or I don't know what it was.
It's my lashes. That's why.
Yeah.
That's what people tell me.
But so we started to have a conversation back and forth, and then I think he sent me a piece that you guys had worked on together, which was the music video
That's
where
right.
he put ankle
yeah.
weights on or something, or diving weights
Oh,
to get a shot
yes.
under the water.
Yeah. I forgot about that one. Yeah. So we co-directed a music video. That was a fun experience.
Do you remember that I told you to lasso the camera up on a string and then just throw the string over the tree branch and we could get an aerial shot?
That
And
sounds
he-
like something you
He was like, no, we cannot do that. I was like, we can use my camera, it's fine.
Did you do it?
No.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Mark put the kibosh on that.
Yeah. Stamped his foot
I was like,
down.
I'm all for open collaboration, but I have to draw the line somewhere. This camera's gonna hit someone in the face. And...
Oh man.
Wow, I forgot about that.
We met in an interesting way, too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at USF, University of South Florida, and late one night I was walking around. Actually, I think I was. No, that's beside the point. I don't want to mention that. Anyway, I was.
Now I want to know this.
Yeah,
but
what were you doing?
I was going through some angsty stuff. I was
Okay.
listening to some music, and all of a sudden I see Desiree, like basically one woman crewing an entire film, and it's like it's beautifully set design. Like there's this tree and there's ornaments, everything, and actors, and literally I think she's the only crew member.
Yeah.
She's shooting everything, designing, producing everything, and then I was like, "Oh, my name is Mark. I'm interested in filmmaking." And then I don't remember if I stayed for a little longer and maybe helped you out, or if I just gave you my information. But yeah, after a while, we started working together.
I think you did hang out for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, at that point, I never really met any actual filmmakers. I met people who had talked about wanting to make films, but no one who actually,
Was making them.
making them.
Yeah.
So it was pretty exciting to me. And I'm glad I ran into you.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. That was crazy.
That was cool.
Wow, I like these. I like the way this has gone. This is good. Just hearing the little backstories
Yeah.
and
So
how things came
cute.
about. Yeah. Okay, so let's get back to. So I kind of diverted us. So you wrapped up the camera from the school and threw it in the water.
I
and
did.
You got your shot.
Got it? All good?
How'd the film come out? What was your...
You know, I like the PowerPoint better. But I had to go through the process of that. And
At least you had vision
yeah.
that you're trying to achieve, even if you...
Yeah, and you know, I think that really we don't really know how a vision is going to turn out until we do it. So it had to happen, and you know, whatever, it's fine. I wonder if I could find that today. Find that video. I don't know where it is. If I do, we can like insert like the person with the bag around their head in the moment where I say that. Can we do that?
I'm up for it. Yeah, we can get to that.
But
It's going to be back when you mention it, so nobody will realize what's happening until we explain it as we get further along.
Right. Right. How creepy. Yeah, and so then I went to so I was in Chicago then, and then I went back to Indiana for a while.
So you're from Indiana?
Yep.
What were you doing in Chicago?
I went to college there for 1 semester.
Did you study film? I know you said you did fine arts, a master's, but did you study film?
It was
in
always
undergrad?
photography.
Oh, photography. Okay.
Yeah, and you know, once you get into those programs, you always come in under the guise of a particular media, but it's not. No one ever really does that. You can do whatever you want. So I could have started painting if I wanted to, and I'd still be like the photography student.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh. So they all kind of just
Yeah.
meld together.
Yeah. But I went back to Indiana because I wasn't into Chicago. So I went back, went to Heron School of Art there, and started doing photography again, and then started working in more video, but appropriating video. So I was pulling video from all these random places and then re-editing them and like doing weird stuff. And then eventually...
Old films or just random
No,
bits
like
of...
random footage of things. I remember there was this one I did where it was a video from a bullfight in Spain or wherever. And I tinted it this like blue color and, you know, slowed it down and like I just manipulated it and made it my own. And so I did that sort of thing for a while. And then I started collaborating with a friend of mine, and we were doing performance art. But the way you document that is in photograph or video. And we were doing time-based, so we needed to capture it in video. And so that's really when I started getting very interested in film and video, because I was using this thing all the time. I was thinking about how our performance is going to look on camera, and not just how the performance acts out in real time and in the space that it's in. And so I became really, of course, interested in cinematography because I already had a photography background. But now I got to think about if the camera moves, or, okay, what happens that in this composition, people are going to move, subject is going to move within it. And, you know, that changes everything. So I was just really like wrapped up in all of that for a while.
So what was your goal? What was your goal, or maybe it's changed over time as a filmmaker? So you started taking sort of essentially found footage and manipulating it. Were you thinking, I'm making a aesthetic piece of work, or I'm trying to teach people, or I'm trying to express my... Was there sort of a specific thing that you were saying, this is my shtick, or this is what I was going for?
I think it's always sort of based in aesthetics in some way. But yeah, I was just trying to get out an idea. So when I had first seen that bullfighting a video, wherever I saw it, I felt something, and I felt that I needed to articulate what I felt using that material, and how I would do that would be to manipulate it, and so that another audience could see the way that I saw it. But
did the bullfight offend you?
It wasn't offensive.
Or did it make you sad? Or
it made me sad, yes. But then there was just this patience to it that felt really, I don't know how it felt, but there was just a slowness to it. It was, I don't know.
Have you seen the movie Ferdinand, the
No.
new animated movie?
No.
Oh, well, it's a very old story. I think it's maybe it's Disney. I'm not sure what it is, but Ferdinand, who's a bull who grows up smelling flowers because he doesn't want to bullfight, and so
Oh, that's
yeah. So I started watching it, but it's kind of tragic at the beginning
Yeah.
Oh.
because his dad is a big bull and he goes off to a bullfight and
It's like
then
the
trailer comes
Bambi
back empty.
complex there.
Yeah. So. Anyway, maybe you should watch it. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I haven't seen. I just watched the intro of it the other day on a flight.
Oh,
So.
yeah. I mean, I don't really do that anymore. I think part of that was also that I didn't know the equipment and technology very much at that point either. So I didn't know much about, moving images.
So it sounds like you were dipping your toe. So what
I
was
was.
next then? What was the next step?
I think so. Then I got an idea and I made a film. I just did it. I didn't know what I was doing. I just did it. And I think was that the first film? No, okay. I started making very small films, like 1 minute long. And I was really interested in expanding a moment of time. So taking something and then just like drawing that out and inspecting all of the little parts of it. And so I made a bunch of very small 1 minute films. And then when I met you, that was the first time I made something. That's a 5 minute long film. But that was the first time I, created a set. I hired actors. Before that, I was just using people I knew and places I knew. And I was just like doing it in the field.
I was impressed. That was quite a production for one person. This was back in 2011, I think, roughly, about 7 years ago now. And
What was this film?
So the film is called Escape, and it's an experimental project. But yeah, I mean, I was interested in. I've always been interested in twins and twinning, and I was still thinking about Indiana, I think, because I had just moved here. And so I had taken all this styrofoam. So this grad student was making these huge styrofoam sculptures, and so there was all these shaving left over. So in all the dumpsters, you would just find these huge trash bags of little pieces of styrofoam. And I saw that, and I was like, there's my setting. There's my snow. And so I just started pulling these out of the dumpster, and that was such a hot mess because I poured it all over the ground and on the tree to make the set. And anyway, so I just get inspired by little things. So I was interested in twinning. I was interested in snow. And then I was like, something just happened to them. I don't know what, but something just happened. And this is going to be them dealing with it. And that's really how I shot it. I didn't have any more than that. I had no script, had no storyboard. I don't know why these people showed up to be on the film, but they did. And they're awesome. I went on to work with these two sisters several times. And on one of my biggest projects, they were there for that too. So
is that kind of your approach for other projects, to kind of go in without a storyboard or like a detailed script? I know some people can do that. Other times people have to have every little nook and cranny detailed and outlined. So.
No, I just didn't know what I was doing then. And it's okay. I'm happy with that work, and I think it has its own place in history or whatever. But now my approach is to have a script, to have a storyboard. Even if it becomes something experimental later, it usually starts off in a very traditional narrative, film production place. So I have a script, I have a storyboard, and then speaking of like dialogue and stuff, I have specific lines, but I never intend that they have to be read exactly that way. It's more whatever happens on set, it'll be shifted, or I trust the actor or whatever. Yeah.
When you talk about hiring actors, so this episode, we were sort of thinking about producer, if we're keeping with the skeleton crew concept right now. And like you said, you do a lot of different things, and there have been various people on here who have done a lot of things, and that's kind of how it goes with really low budget independent world. But talk about the process of hiring an actor. What does that look like?
Well, when you don't know what that means, it means posting something on Craigslist. and seeing what happens. It is magical. It's crazy. You know what's crazy is that I wanted to hire children for mine. I'm like, I need 2 girls that look alike. And I get parents just sending in headshots like crazy.
Really?
Yes, it's insane. Like I get more response for if I want a child actor than if I just want an adult actor. It's insane.
And you just post these on Craigslist?
Well, that's how
That just sounds like
These
people
parents.
going, well, I don't know about it.
Sounds like free daycare.
I
They're like, let's get rid of
know.
these kids.
I
wanna go
know.
to the movie theater.
I was really surprised that it was that simple. But yeah, so I got a bunch of headshots in, and
How old are these kids?
they were 9 and 12 at the time.
Okay. So does a parent come along?
So the parent did come along, and
I mean, I think that's
every
good.
child I've worked with, their parent has been there, and I don't think I would let them.
Sure,
I don't think
yeah,
I
yeah.
would let them drop them off either. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I hired a kid who was like 9, but this was back in 2006, I think. So it was I don't know, maybe Craigslist existed at that time, but I think I just went to a local junior theater or something, and this kid had never acted. But then I was like, so I need him to shave his head. I need you to bick his head every day of filming, and they did it.
really.
Yeah, so it wasn't perfect. It kind of looked like he had a butch, but I was like, whatever, I can deal with it. So
It is literally, I've told people this, it's my dream to have an actor cut their hair for me.
It's a big ask.
I know.
yeah,
Yeah,
9-year-olds.
so
You got to get a 9-year-old
you already-
who's willing
You got it.
to. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Or
It's
a
very
9-year-old with no rights.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually strange now because he was the main actor in this film, and now he's in college and
Yeah.
has a whole full head of hair.
Do you stay in contact?
So he's reached out. I've reached out to him a couple times, and I'm friends with him on
Yeah.
Facebook. So it's kind of interesting just to see where he's going. I don't think he does any acting or anything
Yeah.
anymore, which is fine. But he was a great sport. It was a fun. It's
Yeah.
a good project. So.
I mean, I think in general, you in order to get anyone on set, so whether you're talking about an actor, you're talking about crew, you're talking about someone to feed people, and even locations, you sort of have to be willing to beg, and you have to be willing to ask. There can be no shyness. You just got to do it, even if you don't want to. And that has worked for me so many times. I don't know why, but if I go in there and I act like, this is going to make it or break it for me, the decision is up to you, right?
So you're sort of putting the pressure on them, like you. It reminds me of The Big Lebowski, where he's like, "Her life is in your hands.
Yes.
My life is in your hands,
Yes,
dude."
exactly.
Oh, that's good.
This is why I want Desireé Moore producing my next film. I think that's a great quality, to be able to have those awkward conversations and not be shy. I think shy producers are the worst producers. I don't know.
Are you shy, Mark?
I don't think so, but I don't think I'm cut out for a producer. I'm not sure.
I've heard you get some things that I'm like, way to go, Mark. That's
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Potentially. The problem is people look at me and they're like, yeah, I'm going to walk in the other direction. I just don't have like a very trusting face. Like when people hear my voice, they're like, oh, that guy's fine. He's harmless. But at first glance, they're like, whatever
So
he's selling, I don't want
first.
it. What's that?
Call them first.
Yeah, you have like a lovely voice though, and then you have something that's just calming about you. And I think it's the way you speak, and you have more experience in producing definitely than I do. So I don't know. I think certain people are cut out for it. Yeah, I don't know. What would you say? Do you think there's certain producer qualities that are necessary?
Yeah, I do think just having the willingness to try things, because like you said, you can't just sheepishly go in and be like, well, I think you have to have a sort of, I don't know if it's like a hawkishness, but you have to go after things and be willing to try and be okay with failure, because this is constant failure everywhere, like mini failures, So I don't think I'm a great producer in that regard, because I just don't like going up to people and talk. I will do it. I've done it many times, but.
It's so weird though. So it's related to context though, because I hate if I'm at a restaurant, my food might be horrible, but I can't tell them. So isn't that weird?
That is strange. I always take back food. People hate me
See?
all the time. I'm sure people have spit and jizz in my food countless times. Like I'm fully aware of it. I don't mean to be difficult. Like I order it correctly, and if they mess it up, like I'll say something.
We eat a lot of meals together, and we discuss this pretty often. We're like, well, it's gonna be spitting our food this time.
It depends. Like I'll be strategic about it. Like
Yeah.
you gotta gauge the situation. You gotta know how bad the response may be. But oh yeah,
Have you ever sent food back, or have you ever?
Yeah, yes, I have. I mean, it's not that I will never, but it gives me anxiety in a way that I don't have anxiety when I have to do these things for film. Like it just like I don't know. There's just a different
Maybe
importance to
I was
it or
gonna say,
something.
Maybe it's meaningful actually. Like my chicken sandwich is not very good. You gotta if it's dangerous, I'll send it. If it's like this chicken is raw,
Right.
I mean, I'm not gonna eat that. You know, I'll definitely send it back.
I said no pickles. Take it back.
Yeah. Yeah. It depends on how offensive it is
I agree.
to each person. Yeah.
All the waiters or servers right now hate me so much. It's okay.
It's,
They're like, what a fucking.
oh,
asshole.
Mark's kind. You're very kind about it,
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
So
No, I'm
Yeah.
not an asshole
yeah.
about it, but I'll mention it. Like you get what you should get what you pay for anyway. This is a point of contention with me and other people. Sometimes people don't like when I say something. It's just like I didn't go out to a restaurant and spend $25 on a meal for
Yeah.
it not to be the way it is. Anyway, we're going way off topic.
Yeah.
All right.
This is true, though.
All right. So, yeah,
Has there been any? Has there been any situation where you thought this is just so far out there? There's no way I'm getting this, and you went out and tried it anyway, and it came through.
Yeah. So Funland. Yeah, Funland DriveIn.
Driving, yeah.
In Lakeland?
No, it's
in Tampa?
it's in
I
Tampa,
don't-
Hillsborough. So I had this dream that my thesis film in graduate school, it's like 22 minutes long. Its place to be shown is not in a gallery, it's not on a TV, it is at the drive-in. And so I thought
I like where this is going. This is
yeah,
fun.
and I'm working in like on a DSLR, and I'm thinking I'm gonna get this printed on film. It's gonna be projected. I'm gonna do the whole thing. It's gonna happen. All I need is them to agree to let me show it on a specific date, and I'll move through that process. So I drive in, and I sort of luck out because the owner is there. And so that was just pure luck. I did not do research or anything like that. I didn't know the owner's name. I just went there one day. And she happened to be a lovely woman, and I can't remember her name right now, unfortunately. But I found her, and I just asked her if she had a moment to talk, that I had an idea. And I wanted to run it past her, and I wanted to see how we can make it happen. And so I told her my idea, and she's like, thought it was really weird. And she's like, well, I don't see why not. And I kind of proposed to her that I'm going to bring all these people from the University of South Florida for this project. And, it might be people who don't even know this exists or have never come before. So it would be good advertising as well. Mm-hmm. And so eventually, she's like, you can use it, but I'm losing a screen that night. So if your film's going to be shown there, then I can't show anything else. So I'm losing possible revenue. So we talked about it a little bit, and we came up with a figure, and it was very reasonable. And it was reasonable enough that as a grad student, I could afford to pay this. And so I did. And so then I looked into printing it on film, and that is a nightmare. Why? There's no reason to do
35 millimeter film?
Yeah.
Wow.
I wanted to have it projected. But that's just crazy. I couldn't afford that. So anyway, I just got a really high-end, I borrowed a really high-end digital projector, and I just drove a car out there, set it up on top. We invited everyone. Everyone who wanted to come got a ticket that I had sort of like paid for already. Mm-hmm. And we did it. We set up some speakers, and it didn't come through the like main control room how I had envisioned, But nevertheless, it was on the big screen. People were, sitting on top of their cars. That's what I wanted. Watching the movie and made it happen. It was actually, it's really frustrating at the time, but when I look back at it, it wasn't that big of a deal. I had to figure out some organizational things, logistical things, and I had to talk to people and keep them in the loop. I couldn't just, meet her one day and say, I'm going to do this thing. I'll see you 3 months from now. I kept going back and I kept saying, hey, I just want to make sure we're still on and make sure this is still good. This is what I'm planning. This is how many people I think are going to come, and just being very professional about it and respecting the fact that she or whoever is doing a favor for you. And, just like, thank you all the time. Thank you,
Well, you just got to ask sometimes and follow up. And yeah, it seems so daunting from the outside, but you just asked and you followed through with it and you made it happen. It's not bad for a thesis film to be shown on the big screen.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because really, most of the cases, you're just dealing with people. So they're just like you. And you know what? Something like this is kind of exciting, right? It changes up the mundane. It changes up the everyday. And to be like, yeah, someone's shooting here today. Like, that's cool. It's exciting in some ways. So I think that we might think, oh, it's a burden. It's going to mess up their workflow or it's going to, whatever. But I think a lot of the times people want to be a part of something. And even if it means like, yeah, you can use the back office,
Yeah.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
What, did you have popcorn there?
We did have popcorn.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
And
I lost my question for a minute. I was gonna ask.
popcorn, and we actually brought in a keg. So someone had a keg in their truck, and then we, brought the truck in, and yeah.
Sounds like a great time.
It was.
We should do this again.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I think about it all the time. Every time I drive by there, I'm like, I wonder if I could get something else shown there. Because now they have digital projectors. They had to change over.
Oh, so you could have it inside the control booth and pumping out through
that stream of light. Yes.
Yeah. Not to put you two on the spot, but for our listeners who may not be aware, Desiree and Joseph co-directed a short film actually last year. Maybe you guys want to talk a little bit about that experience and maybe the producing aspect and what it's like to kind of co-direct.
Well, you produced it, Mark. So right back at you.
That's true.
I was just thinking in my head, wait, what did we do?
Yeah. I was kind of wearing multiple hats at that point, kind of gaffer, pseudo producer. But you guys were.
Yeah, it wasn't just producing.
Yeah. You guys were.
You were in a sickly haze as well.
That was the worst time of my life.
You were, yeah.
Anyway, I was just curious to kind of how do you recall that experience working with Joe specifically? Again, not to put you on the spot.
I see it as working with both of you. I don't ever just see it as like just me and Joe.
Sure.
But I mean, I love the experience with us.
It was a good experience. Looking back, I'm really thankful we did it. The film's not done yet, but it's close.
But you were working on it, and that's amazing.
I'm working on it.
Yep.
But it'll be done soon. Maybe we'll screen it at the drive-in.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll figure it out.
Great.
Okay, I got you.
Maybe we can do like a launch party for this there. We'll have to talk about that. But
we should do it on some. We should do it on some sort of like solar event. It should be like a night where, I don't know, there's something happening in the stars.
You see this? Desiree Moore isn't just a producer. She's a producer now.
Yeah, wouldn't that be appropriate?
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
That's great. I like it. Okay.
There's no rest for
we'll
you.
have to talk about this offline. Yeah.
Okay,
this
great.
Concept, so.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What do you think is the biggest value of film? Sometimes when people listen
I want to hear more about the film, film process. I'm curious about.
Oh.
So this film was called Perihelion. At this point, at least, unless the film changes.
I had so much fun working with you two, and I was really happy with the production value that we brought. I thought we did an amazing job. We totally transformed this house into something else, and we brought in actors and non-actors that were amazing and killed it and did some surprising things, which was awesome. And then we went around to several locations. I just remember it being so hectic, though. I think, you know,
It was very hectic.
It was.
Actually, there were these moments where, because we shot overnights, so
Right.
yeah, so we would start because I live in Orlando, so I would come here, I think after work, and then we would start shooting at 7 or 8 p.m. and shoot till 6 a.m. or
That's
something.
a 2 to 3 hour drive each way, right?
Yeah.
With traffic, yeah.
Something like that. And then some days I'd go back to work at like 2 and then
Yeah.
work that day and then come back and shoot. So I think the whole shooting was maybe 4 days or something like that. So it was really hectic. And I remember the moments that were very sweet where when we were really stressed and I'd be like, one of us would be like, all right, guys, let's go back to the room. And there was a room in the back and we would go back there and sort of huddle.
It was our sanctuary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we would, converse about whatever
Yeah.
the struggle was or
Yeah.
celebrate if there were there any victories? I think there were some victories, yeah. So
You know, I think there must be tragedy, right? Like, if it went so smoothly, would we have the same remembrance of it? Would we have the same fondness?
sure.
I don't think so. I think you forget those things a lot, you know, but you remember those moments when it's difficult. Yeah. You know, I think relationships in general on set are so interesting because it can be so different than offset. Like, you can have one relationship with someone that is, you know, this way or that way, but then the moment, you know, we're rolling, people are, you know, getting in their positions, everything changes. So, you know, that's just a really fascinating nature of it in general.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I guess from like producing standpoint, what's really interesting too is, you know, you hire people and sometimes there's not really a consideration toward how these people are going to get along necessarily. It's just about, oh, you can do that thing, awesome, and you're available, perfect. And then I think what you sort of realize when people start coming together is, oh, well, all those things are good too, but it'd be really great if we all liked each other a little bit.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that was one of the things about this film it wasn't surprising to me, but at the end of the film I said this was and I've only co-directed, Mark and I co-directed something in the past, and then I don't know if I've done as intense of a co-direction, but I really like the process with you, and I think we're considerably different filmmakers and different approaches, and it was interesting to me to see that I think we melded pretty well.
Yeah, and that really started when we were talking about the script, and that was like so fluid, and it made so much sense. And I think I had sort of started it, and then you went in and you did a bunch of changes, and then I came back, and it was just this very sort of like trusting relationship, which is hard to do when you're talking about your vision.
It
you
is,
know,
yeah.
like, here, take my vision and do things to it.
Right? Yeah. But I think,
Guys did some things to that vision. Yeah.
but we argued too, I think, which was good. Like healthy arguments
Yeah.
back and forth. Well, this won't work because of this and that type of thing. And I think that's really beneficial in the process when you push against someone else and you. I feel like you're.
What? Are you giggling?
No, you start giggling over here.
Yeah.
And then,
This is fitting for our last episode of the podcast. This one's a little more dicey than normal. I like it. No,
Anyway.
I just remember, as mentioned, I was terribly sick during this shoot.
Yeah.
Probably the sickest I'd ever been in my life. And I just remember it being beautiful but chaotic, just so chaotic. And again, we were shooting this for a deadline. And I think all three of us were traveling during certain times. I was flying in and out. You were traveling from Orlando. You were flying to Chicago or somewhere.
Yeah. And we were all working also.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we finished it though. And I think going back to the relationship idea, I've noticed, maybe I mentioned it before, but filmmaking seems to expedite friendships like on set. Like you can, be shooting with someone for a day, but by the end of that day, you seem like you've known them for months or years. It's like a very vulnerable environment, I feel. Like it's pretty interesting. So
I agree.
Yeah,
Actually,
definitely.
we'd only met once or twice before
That's so weird.
that film.
It doesn't feel like that.
And I feel
Yeah.
like you guys have known each other for like 10 years. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that aspect of it. It's nice.
Yeah.
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 Is there a certain aspect of filmmaking that you don't like so much? Like, whether it's the pre-production, writing, directing, locations?
Let's see. You know what I found is that I prefer to work with people who don't consider themselves actors versus hiring actors.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just think that from my personal experience, I've had, I feel like, better performances and more like willingness, I think, from people who are interested in the craft or the character, maybe more than like an outlook on a career per se. Because I think you make different decisions, and I think that's fair. And you know, I think we all have to think about what is good for us and what's going to move us forward. But yeah, I guess my directorial style too is not to specifically know every single action that my actor should commit and exactly how the words should come out of their mouth. I want them to relate enough to the character that they know what that character would be doing. And so I think that part of producing, of finding the talent, is probably the most frustrating. So much depends on that. I mean, whether the project is a success depends on that decision that you make. And just from previous experience, I tend to, when I think of a character, like, okay, who in my network that I already know could be good for this, or who have I already seen perform somewhere, who I know could pull this off and who could relate in some way, rather than just doing that sort of like cold casting where you have a bunch of random people show up. But, you know, I've had great experiences that way too, just in general, I'd say.
Yeah.
So do you try to actively grow your networks then? Or, and it sounds like it might be more as a way to grow a pool rather than, a lot of people in this industry grow networks just to grow their career or to, you know, I got to meet people so that they can do things for me. But it sounds like maybe it's more of a natural, I want a pool of talent to pull from. Or what's your approach when or are you just naturally outgoing, or what's it like growing a network?
I don't feel like I'm naturally outgoing, but I must be. Because
I feel like you know a lot of people. When I think of someone who knows a lot of people, I think of you.
Huh.
Well, I think
Thank you.
I think it's because I was going through your website a week or it's probably a couple months now. It goes fast, but and I was looking at all the places you screened work and had, you know, grants and artist residencies and all of these things, and it seems like it's spaced out all over the place.
Yeah.
So I guess that lends itself to the idea that you know a lot of people.
So, well,
and that you've been around.
Yeah, the more things I do, the more people I meet outside of the network that I've already built. And I think that's what's really important. If you keep working inside the same sphere, then you're never going to meet anyone new. Or it might be so rare that someone, you know, joins that fold because one night you're walking along campus and stuff happens, you know. Like that's not how we generally meet people, but it's great when it does happen. But so all of that, these other networks that I become a part of is because I am going after things. And I'm saying to myself, like for residencies, I have them all over the country. And I'll literally think about, I've had one in the Northeast, I've had one in the South, I've had one in the Midwest, I've never had one out West. So that's what I'm going to go after now. So it's very, like prepared, controlled.
Strategic,
yeah, strategic. Yes, for sure.
That's good. That's inspiring to me, actually.
Yeah.
Just because I'm more of the type of person who, I met Mark and I was just like, Mark's awesome. I'm just going to hang out with Mark all day, you know, and he's one of the primary people I talk to.
He's about to leave me now, is what he's saying. He's like, I got to find more people now.
Oh my God. I thought you just about to drop a bomb on me.
No. That sounds like we're dating or something.
Show me the ring.
Yeah. No, but I think that is inspiring because I'm not necessarily naturally an outgoing person, but I think that's a way to not only grow a network and but also to do different things, you know. And so it's
Yeah, what's great too is especially when you do. So I come from an artist background. So what's nice is I have like me in these two different fields. So the art field and then the film field, and so then I have, you know, these huge networks out from both of those arenas. But what's great about like artist residencies, and you can do this with film too, be like a workshop or something like that, or a conference or something. But usually at a residency, they're going to invite a handful of other people, and you're all from somewhere else. So all you have are each other. And so it's sort of like forced upon you, but in a great way, because then you get to know those people really quickly and you develop relationships because you know no one else there, and you get to explore this new place together. So that actually is a really good way to force yourself to meet those people and, you know, build new relationships, invite them in, keep relationships open. One thing that's really good is like, if I see anything related to, you know, an artist I met or a filmmaker friend that I met that relates to their practice in some way or their interests, you know, I use social media to keep that open. I'll just be like, hey, check out this link. I thought about you. Once a year, right?
simple. You keep that relationship.
Yeah, and then they do the same thing to you, for you. Yeah. So I want to tell you about a big thing I went after recently, and I don't think I'm going to get it, but I got close, which was really exciting. So this year I thought, oh, I want to be in Sundance.
Wow. All right.
And
I think that's what we all think. Most of us just either, I don't know what happens to most of us, but I think that every year maybe. This year I want to be in Sundance. And then I'm like, well, what's on TV? What's on Netflix? You know?
So, well, this year I was like, I'm actually going to try something. Because I thought it, you know, of course.
When is the deadline for Sundance, by the way? I wonder that every year. And I'm like, I should prepare something to get it, and then it just gets away from me.
So Sundance has two kinds of the festival. So it has the film festival, which we're all familiar with and we all want to be a part of because, of course. But then they have this other thing, and it's their art portion. And so they accept any time-based art within that, any time-based new media art. And so because I walk that line of filmmaking and art video, then I have this opportunity. And it's just your perspective. I mean, anything that you have, you could consider it art if you wanted to, right? So anyway, they want things that are pushing the envelope when it comes to like filmmaking or this like linear storytelling, because they already have that stuff under control. They already have narrative under control. So anyway, I've never done something totally ambitious and weird. So I was like, well, why don't I just like say I'm going to do a 180-degree projection on a curved screen that will wrap around the audience, and I'll make it happen, right? Like, if I believe it will happen, it will, right? So what's great about this, though, is I have to legitimately think about the project. I can't just propose something and have not thought about the logistics of it. So, okay, so I'm like, I'm going to do this. This is my idea. So the first step was writing something for them. And you'd be surprised how important writing is to getting things. So you're talking about grants, you're writing. You're talking about investments, it's writing. You're talking about getting jobs, writing. So writing is so crucial. So anyway, I wrote this.
You're not even talking about writing a film. You're just talking about basic writing skills.
Yes.
I can write a letter to some, you know.
Yes, yeah. Basic writing skills. The way that you write, and it has a presence to it. It has an enthusiasm to it. So what I'm getting at is all they wanted for the proposal for this Sundance thing was 200 words. Do you know how small 200 words is? It's nothing. It's like 3 sentences, 3 long sentences. Like, what am I going to do? So anyway, I'm at the computer for hours, and I figured out I get this like it's very narrative proposal. So it reads like a story, which makes sense, right? I'm thinking about my audience. Who's my audience? These people who are running Sundance. So my proposal got through. They said, we love your idea. Now we need a sample. So now I have to actually like create a sample of this crazy proposal that I proposed.
So did they look at your work ahead of this time, or was it just...
No.
Oh,
This
wow.
was a written proposal.
But they...
I think I had to have a link to my website.
Okay.
But yeah, so so I said 180-degree projection, all these things, blah, blah, blah. So
Did you know how to do that at the time?
no,
Okay,
I know not.
right.
I still don't know how to do that. So I write to the director because there's contact information, and I'm just like, just want to make sure it's okay to send a very small sample because it's not completed yet because the festival's in February. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. Here's what we need. And so I actually got more information from her by reaching out. And so anyway, I create this mock-up essentially in Premiere of what it would look like if it's, stretched around a 180-degree screen. It's curved and all these things. And I send it through, and I'm still waiting to hear back. I haven't heard a no yet. But I'm still waiting to hear back. And I guess what I'm saying is sometimes, even if you don't know you're capable of doing something, do it anyway. Because because here's what's going to happen. If I get a letter back that says, congratulations, you're in the festival, guess who's going to learn how to do all of that? Me. You know, and it's like, I just...
It seems
You got to.
forward thinking. A lot of times people can have an idea, but then it can be so daunting. They just stop before they even pursue it at all. I remember one time, this was maybe a couple years ago, you actually just texted me randomly and you said, oh, Mark, I'm trying to do this one shot. I don't remember the exact details, but I think it ended up requiring like a parfocal zoom lens that went from like your building
I remember this.
to
Yes.
another building.
I remember this discussion too, because you talked to me about it, and then I've seen the film.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, and then I just like I did like maybe 10 minutes of research, and I was like, this is what I recommend. I talked with you too, Joe, and then I was like, this is what I recommend. And then, sure enough, like I think like 6 months later, you just like had this film, and I was just like, it's crazy. Like it was a pretty challenging shot, or you like in your head it may have been complex, and then it wasn't even a big deal for you. Like I think that's pretty impressive.
So actually, it was a big deal.
Well, it didn't seem like that.
So thank you for that because that camera was perfect. And I'll tell you what's so interesting. I needed that, to do a zoom that was steady, that would keep focus. And what I didn't tell you was that I was training a cardinal.
Like a northern cardinal.
I wanted a cardinal to appear in this shot as I zoomed in. And I knew there was a cardinal that lived in this tree outside of the building, and I knew it lived there because I saw it every day. So I knew it was around. So like, okay, what's the cardinal's favorite food? Black sunflower seeds. So I got a whole bag of those.
I was going to say a worm.
No. So I get a whole bag, and I wanted it to land on this railing. So for like 5 days before I knew I was going to shoot, I started leaving sunflower seeds on this railing. Every day. First day, nothing. Second day, nothing. Third day, he found them. And then he would come back the next day. He kept coming. So I was like, okay, great. And so I was on that roof for 3 days, all day, from 9 a.m. until the sun went down, waiting for the perfect moment because it required a pan and then a zoom, and then I wanted this bird in there. And it was sort of essential to me for whatever reason. And as, fate would have it, of course, it was the last shot that I knew I could take. And it happened, and it was perfect. The bird did all this crazy stuff that I couldn't have planned, and yet it was awesome. And
Were you operating on this too?
yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
I got to go watch this movie again now. What's it called?
It's called Tragedies.
Tragedies. So people, we'll put a link
Okay.
to that in...
Yeah. It's really fun if you fast forward through the film because it's a zoom. The whole thing is a zoom. So it's really slow. But then if you just like fast forward it, it's so cool because it's just like, it's awesome.
I've never heard a director say, please fast forward through my film.
Yeah, wow.
You know, different experiences. Yeah.
So the bird worked out.
Oh my God, the bird. I named him Frank. Frank did this awesome thing. So I wanted him to just come to the railing, but that day on that shot, he did this thing that I couldn't even, this is what I'm talking about actors. Sometimes you just know what to do. And so this Cardinal Frank, he's on his tree, right? And I see him and I'm waiting. And he moves to the roof. And he's like looking down at the railing. And I'm like, okay, here we go. So I'm starting my pan. I'm like, stay there, stay there, stay there. I'm starting the zoom. And he's still on the roof. I'm like, oh my God, I can't stop the zoom. So I'm still going, I'm like slowing down a little bit. And then he jumps down on the railing. And then it's beautiful because I zoom past him. But then he hops back into frame. Oh my God, are you kidding me, Frank? You're wonderful. I mean, it's better than I could imagine, Frank. Yeah. So, you know,
You know what's good when you go like this? Yeah. It's like an Italian chef.
I'm also Italian, though.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess, you know, you have to be so confident in what you want that you're willing to change everything for it. I know that's like crazy to say, but you can make it happen.
I've mentioned this multiple times. I think Joe and I agree. Like, I say Desiree is a go-getter. She's like a hustler. She doesn't stop. She just goes, and goes. And
yeah,
all the credit to you. Sometimes I have ideas and I'm like, this is not going to happen. It's like, let me call Joe. Let me call Desiree. This is depressing. I need like $30 million to do this one shot. And it's just, and then you guys will tell me, all right, just scale it down a little bit. You can do it. Here's what you can do. And I think it's a great skill to have, just to be able to see openings and opportunities and make necessary compromises that don't compromise the entire vision, though. So I think that's important.
Yeah, gotta make it happen.
Yeah.
I adopted 2 birds once for
Yeah?
a film. Yeah, and they just 2 doves, and I adopted them just because that was the cheapest way to do it. It was at the pet store.
Oh my gosh.
And I had a whole set built in my room at my parents' house. I took my bed out. And this was for a different film. But they would just fly around. I didn't cage them. And they just flew around and shit all over everything. And then at night, they'd just be making sort of their cooing sound, or whatever they were, and driving everyone crazy. And then on the day of the shoot, which was a couple weeks later, this might be less humane. I don't know. I just released them.
Oh my gosh.
And they flew up to the tree, and I got the shot, and it was great. I should have named them. I didn't have any names for them. No, I think they're fine. I mean,
How can you not
doves.
name them? I don't understand this. I don't know how people don't name animals. Why wouldn't you name them?
Well, I don't know if
You didn't want to get attached
maybe
to
I
them,
would have got
maybe.
attached. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So.
Right.
Well, my cat took a swipe at one on the day of the filming because it was in a cage, and he walked up and he looked so serene, and then he was just like, and they were flapping, and I mean, I felt bad about it. I wasn't trying to like hurt them, and I think they were fine. They flew away, and they flew up to the tree, and they were free then.
Yeah, they know what to do.
Yeah, it was fine, but.
The idea of
bird
writing
stories.
things, though, like applications and grants and programs, it's so awful to me. I think it was Louis C.K. I heard he wanted to go to film school, but he didn't want to write the essay for it, so he just didn't. And like that's been my philosophy for everything. Like that requires I would rather sit down and write a 20-page script than write like an application. I just can't do it. And I think that's probably why I'm not going to become successful anytime soon. But seriously, I think these are very necessary skills to have.
I think about it totally differently because I'm like, wait, I can write down words on this piece of paper and you're going to give me money?
What you're saying makes perfect sense. I haven't been able to wrap my head around it.
I almost applied for a residency because of you. You suggested
the one in Nebraska.
Yeah, and then
I still recommend that. That's where Frank is.
Yeah, the bird.
Yeah.
Oh, you shot that there.
Yes.
Oh. the problem is, how do you know, there's no time off work, and it's just,
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's the difficulty.
That
with
is
those
the
things.
difficulty
Yeah.
of it when I was doing a lot of the stuff, it was when I was in grad school or when I was working part-time, and so I had a lot of flexibility. My schedule definitely changes when you have a full-time job. And
That's the constant struggle, I think, of being an independent filmmaker. You gotta make enough money to eat and live, and then you're trying to do your
Right.
projects. So it's almost like you're working multiple jobs.
Yeah.
You're working a job to sustain yourself, and then a job that you love, which you might love the other one, you know. But it's
It's a
constant struggle. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's all I do is work, you know?
Right? We've talked about this multiple times,
Yeah.
where I envy people who just do their job and then go home and rest.
I know. Oh,
What's that like? It doesn't even seem possible.
just like
to me.
watch TV.
Yeah, and you're not like, all right, I got to get some work done, and I got to.
It's hard to enjoy free time. Like if you're not creating or moving towards filmmaking, you're like, I should be doing more. I should be doing more.
Yeah, even if I'm like, okay, tonight I get to watch a movie or I get to watch TV, and then I'll be like, wow, they're doing such a great job. Why aren't I doing great? I need to be doing a great job. You know, like, chill. You can have an hour and a half of not working. Yeah. But I will say one thing about the application thing. I so highly recommend people do this. I think that if you are eligible for a grant, apply to it. Apply to it until you get it. Keep applying, because this is something I've learned from my art practice, is because you're always applying to things. That's the only way your work is shown, is you're applying to shows. And so at first it's really traumatic because you get rejection after rejection and you just feel so defeated. But what you realize is that it's all, it's all subjective. The people choosing these things, they change every year. And so if you didn't get something one year, you might get it the next year. So now I apply to so many things, I forget what I've applied for. So I'll get like a congratulations, you got this thing in my email. I'm like, cool. Because you don't even think about it anymore. Because you know that for every 10 applications, 9 are going to be a rejection, but you'll get that one. And so then you just keep on doing it. And eventually you get money.
That's good.
Good advice.
Yeah. So what are you working on now, Desiree? And what's next for you? And where can people find your work at?
Okay, so I'm sort of finishing up a project called Between right now. And it's sort of, I'd say it's like 90% done. I'm just going back into it and like cleaning up some stuff, but it's a multi-channel film. It's presented in a sort of art setting. So it's a rear projection. So you actually have 4 screens that you can look at. And then it plays off. It plays one time in sync, and then every time it's slightly off register, more and more and more. And it's a dialogue piece, so the dialogue then shifts over time, and so you have all of these different things occurring each time you watch it. So that piece is what I'm sort of finishing up right now.
Which Mark shot, right?
Yes, which Mark was my director of photography.
Yeah, it was a cool experience.
Lovely, lovely stuff. That dolly shot.
The one that we kept doing again and again.
The one
and
we
again.
did 21 times.
Was that how many? 21 takes? Yeah. Yeah, you gotta do it until it's perfect.
Didn't use it.
Oh.
Which I'm super sad about too.
I'm
but
okay with it. It just.
I love that shot.
Yeah.
But what I found was in this new, formation, in its new life, it doesn't need that shot, unfortunately. Like it needed it in the first one, but
I understand. I think
Yeah.
we said it before. You gotta kill your darlings, and
You do.
gotta fulfill the vision.
yeah.
Yeah.
So finishing that, I have a couple scripts that I'm working on. I have 2 that are finished and just sort of waiting for their time. I don't know when that is, but they will have a time eventually. And then I have one up here that I haven't figured out yet. So,
Excellent. That's great. Have things waiting in the wings. And
yeah.
Good.
Always have a thing. So you can find my work at DesireéNicoleMoore.com. It's really long.
You spelled Nicole with no H, right?
With one.
With an H.
With an H.
Sorry.
Nicole.
Nick
Okay.
Hole.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was
More
without
with an
H
E.
too.
Right?
Yes.
I just want people to get this correct. I mean, we'll put a link, but
Each name ends with an E.
It's a good way to remember it. All
Let's just spell it out.
right. Is there an accent mark in your URL too?
No,
Okay.
of course
But you
not.
spell it with an accent, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, great. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put a link down below. So,
Okay, awesome, great.
thanks so much for coming on. This was a
Yeah.
lovely discussion.
Thanks for having me. I
Thanks,
enjoyed
Desiree.
it.
Yeah.
So, thanks everyone for watching. This is the final episode of the first season of Skeleton Crew Podcast. Go ahead and like, share, go to iTunes and like it, all those things that you do that help us out. And it's been a good time, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your friends. You can find links and information about our guests in the show notes or description below. Music by Ian Kreider. To contact us, please visit skeletoncrewpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.